This class is on antiarrhythmic drugs, part 1, which is first of the series of 3 classes of antiarrhythmic drug. In this class, we will be discussing about the normal action potential and how the normal activity, electrical activity of heart takes place, what are arrhythmias and what are the different types of arrhythmias, so that we can understand how the antiarrhythmic drugs act. We know that our human heart has two basic functions, mechanical and electrical function. The mechanical function is to pump the blood to the whole body, while the electrical function is maintain the rhythm of the pumping action. If mechanical function fail, it may result into heart failure, while if electrical function fail, it will result into abnormal rhythm, that is also known as arrhythmia. So, for proper pumping action, both mechanical and electrical components should work in synchrony with each other. Now, cardiac myocytes are of two types, as we have already studied in physiology. They can be pacemaker cells or non-pacemaker cells. The pacemaker cells are those which are able to generate their own impulses. So they have the property of automaticity, that means they can generate their own impulses. Pacemaker cells include SA node, AV node, bundle of His, bundle branches and Purkinje fibers. So these cells have the property of generating their own impulses. While the non-pacemaker cells, they do not have the capacity of automaticity. They contract in response to impulse generated or conducted by the pacemaker cells. So non-pacemaker cells cannot generate their own impulse, and they include atrial fibers and ventricular fibers. So they contract in response to impulse generated by pacemaker cells. Now, electrical activity in heart is the result of movement of ions across the cell membrane, and this ultimately result into depolarization and repolarization. At rest, the cardiac myocyte membrane is in polarized condition. So at rest, what is there? It is a polarized membrane. So all the cations are on the outer side of the membrane, and anions or minus ions, negative ions, are on the inner side of the membrane. So this is a resting polarized membrane. Now, as I have told you, all the electrical activity result due to movement of ions across the membrane. So movement of ions across the membrane is dependent on their concentration gradient. And as the concentration of sodium is more on the outer side, when sodium channels are open, the gradient is towards from outside to inside. So the sodium ions flow from outside the membrane to inside the membrane. Similarly, calcium channels also have gradient from outside towards inside the membrane. So whenever sodium or calcium channel open in cardiac myocyte, what happens? The plus ions, that is the sodium ions and calcium ions, they flow from outside the membrane to inside the membrane. That results into depolarization of the membrane, because plus ions move inside, so that results into depolarization. But the concentration of potassium is more on the inner side as compared to outside the membrane, and thus always the concentration of gradient of potassium is from inside the membrane towards outside. So whenever potassium channel open, what happens? Cations move from inside the membrane to outside, and that results into repolarization or hyperpolarization of the membrane. Resting membrane potential is around minus 90 millivolt, and it is said that it is due to potassium channels, because at rest only few potassium channels are open, all other calcium sodium channels are closed, and thus potassium is responsible for the resting membrane potential. Let us also revise how sodium channels Sodium channels exist in three conformational state. Open state, in which both the outer and inner gate are open, so sodium ions can freely flow through the channel. In a time dependent manner, it gets converted into conformation of inactivated channel. So in inactive conformation, this channel cannot be stimulated as the inner gate is closed. Now, after some time, again in a time dependent manner, this inactive conformation is converted into resting conformation or closed channel conformation. Here you can see, though the outer gate is closed but the inner gate is open, and now this channel is ready to be reactivated by a new wave of depolarization. So conversion of one conformation to other conformation, that is open to inactivated and then to resting state, depends on the time duration. There is a set time duration for every sodium channels, and there are some drugs which can prolong this recovery time from inactivated to resting state. And a sodium channel can be stimulated only if it is in a resting state. It cannot be stimulated in inactive conformation. Now let us see the action potential in ventricular cell, which is a non-pacemaker type of tissue. So here you can see that resting membrane potential is minus 90 millivolt, and there is no change in membrane potential as it is a non-pacemaker tissue. So when a wave of depolarization reaches this tissue from a conducting tissue, what happens? There is rapid opening of sodium channels. Now, as sodium channels are fast channels, they open rapidly and there is rapid inflow of sodium ions through this, and this results into rapid rise of action potential, and the membrane potential overshoots to around plus 47 millivolt. This is known as phase 0, in which there is rapid rise of action potential, and this rate of rise of action potential tells us about the conduction of through the tissue. Now, so phase 0 is because of opening of sodium channels. This is followed by phase 1, in which what happens? Sodium channel closes and potassium channel open. As sodium channels are fast channels, so they open rapidly as well as they closes rapidly. So in phase 1, what is happening? Sodium channels are closing, potassium channels are open, and as the concentration gradient of potassium is from inside towards outside, this results into fall of membrane potential. It is followed by phase 2. Now in this, what is happening? Two type of channels are open: calcium channels and potassium channels. Now concentration of calcium is from outside, the gradient is from outside the membrane to inside the membrane, and potassium gradient is from inside to outside. So both these cations balance each other, and as a result, due to this fine balance between the two cations, the membrane potential is maintained. There is no fall or rise in membrane potential. So phase 2 is also known as plateau phase, which is due to opening of both calcium as well as potassium channels. This is followed by repolarization, in which only in this phase 3 only potassium channels are open, and this, as we know that potassium gradient is from inside to outside, so this result into repolarization of the membrane. So this is phase 3, which is due to opening of potassium channel, and when it reaches to minus 90 millivolt, then it enters into phase 4, in which there is no activity and there is no change in membrane potential until a new wave of depolarization reaches to the tissue. We can summarize it in this diagram that phase 0 is because of opening of fast sodium channels. So there is fast conduction through the non-pacemaker tissue, followed by phase 1, which is due to closing of sodium channels and opening of potassium channels. Phase 2 is plateau phase, which is due to opening of calcium channels and potassium channels, followed by repolarization phase, that is phase 3, due to mainly opening of potassium channels. Refractory period is the period during which the muscle fiber is still in action potential, so it does not respond to a new wave of impulse or new wave of depolarization. Absolute refractory period, this include phase 1, phase 0, phase 1, 2 and initial one third of phase 3, during which even if a strong impulse or a strong wave of depolarization reaches to the tissue, it will not respond. Then another term is effective refractory period, which is a combination of which includes both absolute refractory period as well as relative refractory period. Relative refractory period is the period during which if there is a strong wave of depolarization, the tissue may respond even if it is in action potential. The combination of the two, that is effective refractory period, is almost equivalent to action potential. So in this diagram, we can see that absolute refractory period include phase 0, 1, 2 and initial one third of, it includes initial one third of action potential. Then there is effective refractory period, which includes almost equivalent to the action potential duration. So usually during action potential, the tissue is in refractory state and it usually do not respond to a strong wave of depolarization. But sometimes there are conditions where even during action potential, it may respond to a new wave of depolarization, which may result into arrhythmia. We will discuss that later on. Now we'll discuss action potential in SA node. SA node is pacemaker tissue and there are few differences between this pacemaker and non-pacemaker tissues. Here in pacemaker tissue there are no fast sodium channels. So depolarization, the phase of depolarization is because of opening of calcium channels. As calcium channels are slower than sodium channels, so the rate of rise of action potential is slower. Okay, so one difference is that so fast sodium channels are not present. There are very few sodium channels. And second, there is uh, only three phases in the action potential: phase 0, phase 3 and phase 4. There is no phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 0, that is rise of depolarization, is because of opening of calcium channel, followed by phase of repolarization, that is phase 3. So repolarization is due to opening of potassium channel. So here in pacemaker tissue, depolarization is because of opening of calcium channel and repolarization is because of opening of potassium channel. Now during repolarization, as the membrane potential drops to minus 60 millivolt, this triggers the opening of IF channels, also known as funny channels. These are non-specific cation channels which are also known as leaky channels, as through these channels small sodium ions, they leak gradually through these leaky channels. So they leak from outside the membrane to inside the membrane, sodium ions, and this results into spontaneous depolarization. Now, as this spontaneous depolarization gradually rises due to small leakages of sodium ions through the leaky or IF channels, and as soon as it reaches to the threshold potential, this triggers the opening of calcium ions and then there is generation of action potential. So, what happens? Their calcium ions open, this results into depolarization. Then potassium channels open, that result into repolarization. And when the repolarization results into fall in membrane potential to minus 60 millivolt, this triggers the opening of IF channels. These IF channels are leaky channels through which sodium ions leak inside the membrane, resulting into spontaneous depolarization. Thus, the cycle goes on spontaneously, resulting into spontaneous generation of action potential, and this characteristic is known as automaticity. So automaticity is the ability to generate action potential, and different pacemaker tissue, they have their different intrinsic firing rate. But SA node is considered as the pacemaker of heart because SA node can generate a heartbeat at maximum rate. The firing rate of SI node is maximum among all pacemaker tissues, and thus it suppresses all the other pacemaker tissue and dominates over them, and this is known as overdrive suppression. Okay, and thus SI node is the pacemaker of the heart. Another term is which is important to us is conduction, and conduction is defined by, as I have already told you, rate of rise of action potential, that is dV by dt, or velocity of the rise of zero phase. So we have seen in non-pacemaker tissue, as fast sodium channels are responsible for depolarization, the phase zero rises very rapidly. There is a steep rise in action potential. So conduction is very fast in non-pacemaker tissue. While in pacemaker tissue, calcium channels are involved. So we have seen that the phase zero rises slower as compared to non-pacemaker tissue. So dV by d2, or the rate of rise of action potential, tells us about the conduction. Now, clinically, the electrical activity of heart is assessed through the electrocardiograph. And in this electrocardiograph, we know that there are three waveforms. Okay, the first one is P wave. The P wave tells us about the atrial depolarization. Then there is a QRS complex. QRS complex tells us about the ventricular depolarization. So P wave and QRS complex, they correspond to the rate of rise of depolarization, the zero phase. Okay. Then there is T wave. T wave is telling us about ventricular repolarization, the phase 3 of the action potential. Then apart from three waveforms, there are few intervals. PR interval, it extends from starting of P wave to Q wave, and this tells us about the AV conduction. So whenever there is slowing of AV conduction or AV conduction is delayed, that results into prolongation of PR interval. That is, the impulse is taking more time to reach from atria to ventricle. Then QT interval is from Q wave to end of T wave, and it tells us about both ventricular depolarization and repolarization. So whenever there is prolongation of action potential duration, or there is prolongation of the repolarization, the phase 3, that will result into prolongation of QT interval. ST segment tells us about, here the ST segment, it tells us about the plateau phase. So now we can correlate the ECG with the action potential. Phase P wave tells us about atrial depolarization. QRS tells us about the ventricular depolarization. ST segment is plateau phase, phase 2, and T wave is phase 3, that is repolarized, ventricular repolarization. For conduction, we have to look into PR interval. QT interval tells us about almost the action potential duration of the ventricle, that is ventricular depolarization and repolarization, and plateau phase is signified by the ST segment. Now, whenever there is abnormality, any abnormality in the rhythm, that is termed as arrhythmias. But arrhythmias can generate in two ways. Either there can be defect in impulse generation, or there can be defect in impulse conduction. Let us first see defect in impulse generation. And the most common type is abnormal automaticity. As I have told you that there are many type of pacemaker cells, and most of them remain hidden or suppressed because of the firing rate of SI node. But sometimes a hidden pacemaker may become unhidden, and it may start producing its own intrinsic firing rate. It may start producing its own impulse, and that may be seen as a ectopic beat, in the form of ectopic beat. So in this diagram, in this ECG, you can see that there are two normal P and QRS complex along with T wave. So this is a normal ECG followed by another normal PQRST, and then there is an ectopic beat. Why ectopic? Because this is larger in size and this is not associated with a normal P wave. So sometimes a hidden pacemaker may produce its own impulse, and that is seen on ECG as an ectopic beat. Another type of defect in impulse generation is triggered activity, which is also known as after depolarization. Now, what are after depolarization? When a normal depolarization triggers an extra abnormal depolarization, it is known as after depolarization because it is occurring after a normal depolarization. So, this can be of two types: early after and delayed after depolarization. Early after depolarization, when it appears before completion of the action potential. So when after depolarization is seen before the completion of action potential, it is known as early after depolarization. And if it occurs just after completion of action potential, then it is known as delayed after depolarization. So here, early after depolarization, this diagram is showing us early after depolarization. Here what is happening, whenever due to any reason, the repolarization phase is prolonged. The repolarization phase is prolonged due to some or the other reason, maybe due to drugs or any other condition. Then what will happen? The next wave of depolarization, which would have come when the tissue has reached into resting phase. This normally should have appeared here when the tissue is in resting phase, but because of some reason, the repolarization is prolonged. So the next wave of depolarization is reaching here when the tissue is still in the repolarizing phase. So what happens if the impulse is strong? It may oscillate the membrane. Now, these membrane oscillations, if the amplitude is large enough, it may stimulate the surrounding neighboring tissue, neighboring cells, and this may result into a serious type of ventricular arrhythmia, torsades de pointes, that if not treated immediately, it may result into even death of the patient. Okay. So, when there is high risk of early after depolarization, whenever due to any reason repolarization is prolonged, which is seen on ECG as in prolonged QT interval or action potential duration. Now, what can be the reasons of prolonged repolarization? We know that repolarization is mainly because of opening of potassium channels. So, drugs which block potassium channels or due to drugs which may cause hypokalemia or conditions which can cause hypokalemia can prolong repolarization, and these conditions may increase the risk of early after depolarization. Then another type of after depolarization is delayed after depolarization. You can see here that this after depolarization is occurring shortly after completion of the action potential, and thus it is known as delayed after depolarization. The exact reason of this type of arrhythmia is not known, but it may be due to calcium overloading in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and this can be seen in cases of digitalis toxicity, ischemia, or catecholamine excess. Then after defect in impulse generation, the next category is defect in impulse conduction. And the most common type of defect in impulse conduction is re-entry phenomena. In re-entry, what happens? A self-sustaining electrical circuit is developed which stimulates an area of myocardium repeatedly and rapidly. Now, to understand this re-entry phenomena, let us first focus on this A diagram, normal conduction. In normal conduction, what happens? This is a wave of depolarization which is progressing and it reaches to point A. After this, it can enter into two parallel circuits, phase one, this circuit 1 and circuit 2, and it can propagate further, but here or reaching here, you can see when the wave reaches here, it will not propagate this side. Why? Because here the tissue is also in action potential, so it is in refractory phase, so it cannot propagate further, and the wave coming from second pathway will not propagate further here because tissue here is in action potential, so it is in refractory phase. Okay. Now suppose due to any reason there is a unidirectional conduction block that happens in damaged tissue or due to trauma tissue or due to ischemia. In ischemic tissue or damaged tissue, the conduction is very slow. The conduction wave passes very slowly through this tissue. So what will happen? It will result into a unidirectional conduction block. What does that mean? When a wave of action potential progresses down, it reaches to point A. Now it can proceed further through the first pathway, but it will not be able to proceed through second pathway. Why? Because here the tissue is still in refractory phase due to the previous wave of depolarization. Due to slow conduction, here the tissue is in refractory phase or is still in action potential. So the wave cannot propagate through second pathway. So it will go only through the first pathway. It will reach here and it will propagate, it will move forward, will reach to point B, and after reaching to point B, when it reaches to point B, it re-enters through second pathway. The reason is now the tissue which was in action potential previously, but now the tissue is in resting phase. It has reached to resting state, and now the wave can enter here through this point. Now the wave when enters the action potential depolarization, when enters through this pathway, as here the tissue is ischemic, the conduction is very slow, so it will take a longer time to reach here, and once it reaches here, the tissue at point A has recovered from the previous wave of depolarization. So this tissue is now in resting phase. So now the wave can enter through here. Okay, so like this it is re-entering through this circuit, entering through A wave through point A, it will re-enter, then it will reach here, 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 here. When it reaches here, this tissue is now in resting phase, so it will again re-enter through this. So there is a self-sustaining electrical circuit which is stimulating this area of myocardium rapidly and repeatedly, and this is known as re-entrant. Another type of defect in impulse conduction is AV conduction block, where there is a block between conduction of impulse from atrium to ventricle. It can be classified into three degrees. First degree AV block, in which the block is only partial. So this is seen clinically only as prolongation in PR interval. This is the ECG of first degree AV block. Then second degree AV block is of slightly higher category, in which what happens that every third or fourth impulse is dropped. It is not conducted from atria to ventricle. So through AV node, every third or every fourth or every fifth. So a sequence is established. You can see here three impulses are conducted, but then only P wave, no QRS complex. Similarly here, three impulses are conducted, but then only P wave and no QRS complex. Here only two impulses are conducted, and then there is only a P wave, no QRS complex. So in second degree AV block, a sequence is established. Every second, third or every fourth impulse is not conducted. But third degree AV block is complete block. So atria beats on the rate of SA node on its own intrinsic rate, and AV node start producing its own intrinsic firing rate. So atria and ventricle beating is not correlated to each other. So there is no correlation between P wave and QRS complex. They are not associated with each other, and there is complete block. The third type of defect in impulse conduction is through accessory pathways. So normal, you can see here, this is normal atrioventricular transmission. The impulse is generated in SA node. It progresses to the whole atrium, and then through the it reaches to AV node. Then there is a slightly delay in the AV node, and through AV node then it enters through the bundle of His to the bundle branches, and then through Purkinje fibers and whole of the ventricle. Okay, so this is the normal type of AV conduction. Now in some patient there is an accessory pathway. There is an accessory pathway here through which the impulse bypasses the AV node. So normally the impulse will be conducted through the AV node and Purkinje fibers, but before that, through a bypass pathway, the impulse reaches the ventricle. Okay, so what is happening? There is early depolarization is seen due to bypass of the impulse, and this is clinically seen in the form of delta waves. So the coordination between the conduction is disrupted, and this will result into arrhythmia. This diagram again tells us about, clarifies the accessory pathway. This is the normal wave of depolarization from SA node to AV node to bundle of His and then to Purkinje fibers. But here in this diagram, you can see that through an accessory pathway, the ventricles are, a part of ventricle is depolarized before the rest of the ventricle, and this result into delta wave on ECG. Then there are few other common arrhythmias, the terms which we should know. Atrial flutter. This is a condition in which SA node produces beats at a rate of 200 to 350 beats per minute. And in this what happens that AV node cannot cope up with such high beats, high rate of firing. So in this again a partial AV block establishes, and every second or every third beat is a drop beat. So there is a sequence of 2:1 or 4:1, and when we check the pulse of the patient, the pulse is regularly irregular. So though the pulse is not normal, it is irregular, but there is a regularity in the irregular pulse. Another type is atrial fibrillation, where the firing rate is still higher, so it is 350 to 550 beats per minute, but there is no regularity. Any random beat may be conducted, or there may be any random drop beats. So the pulse is irregularly irregular. Then ventricular fibrillation is a very serious condition which may result into the death of the patient. Ultimately, it may be fatal. And this is there is grossly irregular, rapidly contracting or rapidly beating ventricles, but they are so rapidly beating that they do not get time to relax, to fill the blood, and then to pump. So there is loss of pumping action, and it may be fatal. So we have discussed in this class the normal action potential of pacemaker tissue, action potential of non-pacemaker tissue, the differences between them, various terminologies which are important to us while we are discussing the antiarrhythmic drug, and various types of arrhythmias. So before we progress to before we proceed to our next class of antiarrhythmic drug, I would like that all of you go through these preliminary slides which will help you to understand the next session on antiarrhythmic drugs. Thank you everyone.